Well, a guy has finally scooped together enough parts to continue the build on the crew cab here. I've got a bunch of prep to do underneath the old Giant today to get ready for the LS and the 4L80E swap. I've got some wiring, fuel lines, drive shaft, even some rear end work to tidy up. So I thought I'd bring you along, give you a few updates along the way. And then towards the end here, we'll take a closer look at the LS I got back here and the 4L80E I picked up from Monster Transmission. So it's been a long time, probably about a year since I worked on this truck. So a lot of you have probably never even seen it or know much about it. So I'll kind of do a front to rear overview of where it's at and what I'm going to be working on today. 1974 C20 crew cab long box. Of course, they're all long boxes unless they've been, converted. It's been dropped. We've got a C notch. Up here I've got 3-inch CPP coils with McGaffey's, shocks, all new lower upper control arms, bushings, wheel bearings, ball joints, tie rod ends, everything. All this is brand new except for the brake dust shields for some reason, I'm not sure. But all that work abruptly stops right there. I started putting in floor pans. I bought those through a different company and they were just trash, not even close to fitting. These are LMC and you can even look just laying in there. Everything lines up just perfectly. I am waiting on, I just ordered some floor supports and body mounts. That's what the floor support looks like. And then I've also got to do inside rockers and then the support around the side of the seats. You see right there, I've cut that one out. I haven't cut that one out yet. Got to work on the fuel system today. This is just a, guy really tried, whoever put that in. Used to be a handle that was just sheetrock screwed into there and a guy could just, there was a tank in the bed, but that's got to go. And the mess continues all the way back into here, and then it's cobbled in and spliced up there, and cobbled in and spliced over here. All that's got to get ripped out because I've got to drop a Holly pump into the tank because I'm going to be running EFI on this, obviously. The wiring's also a mess. There's just miscellaneous wires kind of sprinkled through here. This goes up to an old gooseneck, oh no, fifth wheel I think, up in the bed. I can't remember, it's been so long since I've seen the bed. So all that wiring's got to be straightened out. There's also a bunch of wiring back here that's just equally as poor. Drive shaft's got to come out. I keep working around this thing and it's been strapped up about 319 times and it's just in the way now. Needs rebuilt anyway. You can hear the carrier bearing is shot. I'm going to put new U-joints in it. And then when we switch to the 4L80E, it's got to be shortened anyway, so I've got to take all this out, get it over to the shop, have them shorten it, balance it, paint it, and put back in. But before I get to that, I've got to finish the rear end here, and this is that C-notch I've put in here. But the big problem is the pumpkin's hitting the bed, and I really wanted to avoid putting bags or any of that bouncy stuff in. But that's clearly not going to work. One of the issues that's happening is I'm not happy with this hardware here, and I'm not going to tell you where this stuff's from, but there's too much material between the axle tube and the top of the leaf pack, and that's bringing the axle farther up and bringing the truck down lower. And there's no center notch in this piece or this piece, so you can't get this hardware centered up. You can see how crooked it is. The kit intends you to put the setup an inch, I think it's 1.25 inches to 2.5 inches back, depending on which notch you select. And I didn't want to do that. What I did was measured from the OEM position to the spring eyelet because on the outside of the truck, as you're looking at it, I wanted the wheel to be in the correct position. I didn't want it farther back. Some people might not notice it, but I would. I think this one is where the kit intends. And you can see how goofy that looks. I don't like that. And it's probably amplified because we're down below it, but so what I'm gonna do today is get this out of here, and I probably could take the lightning scissors and cut this down and drill my own hole, but being it has to do with the geometry of the rear end, I don't want it dog walking. All that's got to be really true. So I bought another spring perch kit. They're only 30 bucks. And that way it's precision laser cut. And then I'm gonna get this plate off and see if I can drill or torch a hole close to center. That way when I bring all this together, it's gonna be, you know, plumb and centered up and true and whatever else. Then I can come back in and hang the shocks and all that. Once I get the pinion angle set right, which is actually easier with this lift now, I'm not laying on my back, then I'll come back and zzz, 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 weld that in so it doesn't, you know, get the axle wrap going. And at that point, I can finally get the transmission set in, and then we can measure for the drive shaft and I can get the correct measurement on that. This cross member's also got to come out, and I haven't decided yet whether or not to use the factory unit, or I've got a universal kit from Monster Transmission. And just doing some basic measurements from the motor mount back and adding together the block and the case of the transmission, it almost seems like if I were to move the front bolt to the back bolt so that cross member would be here and drill a new hole, it would be really, really close. But I've got a nice kit from Monster, like I'm saying, so I'll probably just look at both, but I want to get this out of here because it's got to get cleaned up anyway, and I want to clean up all this stuff behind it. E-brake cables, got to get those figured out. There's some clips I'm missing, but basically this cable whips into there. Gonna take this receiver hitch off. Believe it or not, this is way too low. I actually bashed that into my new lift here trying to get it on, and even in and out of the barn here it scrapes. I won't be pulling. That looks brand new. I'll be dipped. Receiver hitch for sale, square bodies. So I'm gonna take this out, drop that off, and then also this bumper is just literally barely hanging in here. And I've got a really nice unit from LMC, so I'll probably take this bumper off too. Today, I've got all these miscellaneous exhaust hangers and brackets and some other bracketry and things that I don't know what they do, that stuff, all that I'm gonna cut out of here as well. So while I got it up in the air, I'm just gonna clean everything up and get it ready to where I can just lower this back down and set that LS and that 4L80E in and work my way back and not have any of that stuff in the way. So I think I'm gonna start by cutting these fuel lines out and getting this set up correctly. Again, I'm gonna be dropping that tank, so I'll probably take everything right back to that fitting there. So this little 1/4-inch hose here actually went up to the jump tank, so they must have had the plan ahead because that thing would just be trickling in there. And then I think this guy whips over to the frame rail and hooks into the factory steel line, which runs up to the front, which would leave this guy that goes back to the actual tank. We just cut all this out. Oh, that hose is like rock. I'm gonna hang on to this because, well, I'll never use it. I got flathead screwage over here. So you know it was put together in late 70s, early 80s. Yeah, get out of there. Well, you stubborn little. I got something that'll teach you a lesson. So what do we got here now? Okay, so I got a return line. So this would be the fuel out, which has 2 hose clamps, not one. When one leaks, don't fix that. Just throw another one on there. I don't know why I'm even trying to take these off. And for some reason, there's a tiny chunk of hard steel line in there. Drive shaft safety. Must be. Even though there is a little bit of rust on this truck, the reason a guy snagged her up is it's actually really clean underneath. I'm gonna leave the hard steel lines in here because I know that I'm gonna need a return line, and I might just end up using that one. Haven't decided yet. That fancy Flexolite hose, it's expensive. There's all the fuel line stuff I don't need. There is a chunk up in the bed still, but I'll get that later. I think the guy's gonna go ahead and drop the drive shaft out now because it's even more in the way. Okay, how do I do this? Just let it fall on me? Yeah, that sounds like the best plan. Oh, yeah. Easy. Easy now. Oh, that's a lot lighter than the guy would think. Where do I put this now? Well, I'll tell you what. GM really did not want these cross members moving. You've got 2 bolts up here on top. You can get the nuts off, but the bolts are staying, unless you got the floors cut out like me or cabs off. Then you got another 3 decorated around here, and then 2 on the bottom. So I'm gonna take this top off, and I can get them out, then I can raise this bottom up and get that off. Wow, I just spend more time just dinking around than get out of there. Yep. Yep. Okay. Hello. Let's get you up here. Or not. Well, now that that's out of the way, a guy can get in here and scrape down these frame rails and get the cheek poker wheeling in here. Get some of that chassis paint and well, we're shining bright like a diamond. Nope, not even close. What's your name? Guy did go on ahead and think about this for about 17 seconds. I don't know. And I think I'm gonna take this hitch off first before I disassemble the axle here. It just seems to have more stability that way. I'm gonna get some safety involved, chain this thing up here like this. So if this comes swinging down on a guy, at least she's hanging off the bumper and it doesn't take the kneecap just off or shoot through the wall here. Sure, we tried. Where's my Brita? Oh, way down there. Yep. Well, I got battery. I need some SGs. There we go. Yep. Sure. This back one is stubborn. I got turnage. I got positive turnage on toppage. Well, what size is this anyway? Ba-da-ba-doop, boop, boop-a-doo. I've just never seen a more stubborn bolt. I'll get some liquid wrench on that one in a second. I'm Sally Butterfingers today. Can't see nothing out of these glasses. If anybody knows any safety goggles that don't fog up on cavemen faces, let me know. I bet that's hotter than a $2 pistol. Wonder what John Anderson's doing today. All right, here we go. Take that one off. Take this one off. No need for the safety chain, because I got her. Knock that out. There we go. I was about to make fun of whoever wired this in, but then I realized, I think that was me a couple years ago, so I'll skip that part. Here's some more of how well the bumper's held on. About an inch of thread showing there, and this one is loose. Make sure you check your bumper bolts out, fellas, when you buy used rigs, and if you're up north, look at the frame in here too. This is usually just rotten. You put 1,000 pounds on the bumper and whew, there goes that. So I'm going to cut all this out of the way. I got some juice on these nuts already, and we'll back this out, and I think I'm going to set some sawhorses up here or something, or maybe just this ladder since she's already here. And I'll bring the lift down a little bit lower. That way when the bumper comes off, I got to help her get this thing off without blowing the back into 17 pieces. Well, completed my investigation here, and the reason these two nuts were not all the way tight is they cross-threaded it so bad that there was just no threads, so it's not going on or off. And I could fart around with the pry bar and probably get it to eventually come off, but I'm just gonna go get the gas axe, and they're on opposite ends here. This one's in the front, this one's, well, I guess that's the back. Whatever. The bumper's not gonna fall, is what I'm trying to say, because where the bolts are positioned. Guy actually gets asked quite a bit what kind of torch setup I run, because I use it a lot. And it's actually a porta-torch by Harris. What we got here is your typical 80s cattleman's bumper. She's heavy. I mean, that's American-made steel right there. So I'm gonna try to ease this lift down, get it close to this ladder. That way I can pull a bolt out, drop on my little giant here, and then I can snip over to the other side, get that off, and then basically just let it crash to the floor. But try not to, you know, get the, if these are phalanges, or those telanges? I don't know. Now I gotta shoot this air jack up here, get some tension off the springs, take those U-bolts off, then I can get them spring perches out of there. Took the jack up a little bit so the guy's melon wasn't right next to the diff there. Now I should be able to bring that air jack back down. Once the tires hit, axle's gonna stay put. Springs will come down and I can just plop them perches right off of there real nice like. there's the purchase. I'm gonna block up the rear tires a little bit so it doesn't move around on me, but basically just gonna be waiting for the new ones now. Guys got everything swept, put away for the most part. I don't know about you guys, but if I start the day with a dirty shop, it just takes the wind right around my sail. Let's talk about the running gear. We'll start with the engine. This is a 5.3 LS, and it's just your generic 99 to 07 5.3 you'd find in trucks, Tahoes, things like that. But this one's had pretty extensive engine work done to it, machine work. It is bored over. I did put 242 heads on it. It's got high lift springs, has comp cams, 454-11 cam, lifters, push rods. We got king bearings in it and a bunch of other stuff. It's not quite ready yet. I got a Holley muscle car oil pan I want to put on, and the baffles and pickup tube, and I got to pick up a flex plate for it. Then we'll get it mounted up with the transmission here. So on to the transmissions. I had originally, this is actually the Turbo 400 that came out of the truck, and that's been rebuilt and beefed up by Harman Performance Transmission. And the original goal, and you can see the tail shaft wasn't powder coated and painted like the transmission, because I was actually going to put a gear vendor's overdrive into this and more of a highway gear in the rear end, but I wanted the gear vendors for the overdrive. And researching that further, that unit here, I mean, it's worth 17 gold bars apparently, and I just couldn't come to do it. I originally wanted to do it just because it was different, and I wanted the button for the overdrive and then a real beefed up Turbo 400. These are really known for taking a lot of abuse. We scratched that. The good news is this is going to be repurposed, and I'm actually going to put that into the independent Chevelle. Floor is over here drying. And I moved on to a 4L80E, and this is built by Monster Transmission, and this is their Super Sport, so it's built to handle 750 horsepower. And I did get the master installation kit, so it comes with a Thor torque converter, cooler, dipstick, a mount, basically everything that you would need to put this in. And this thing is going to handle a ton of abuse, plus it has the overdrive right into it, and it's going to bolt right up and marry up and make everything nice. These TH400s you can mount to LS engines, but you got to have, there's a spacer you can buy so that the kind of the old school, we'll call it, torque converter and button marry up to the flex plate on this. And it's a little bit easier over here. You do need the transmission control, but I'm going to be running Holley, so the Holley will be able to do all the shift points and everything, all the control and the transmission, so that should be fairly easy. So that's kind of the story between the transmissions and why this has took so long. So next step for me that you guys are going to see is getting this thing ready, so getting the oil pan, everything prepped. I'm going to get these two put together, then we'll get this truck down, and we're going to get that engine set in place and get the engine mounts in here, and then start working on the cross member and everything else so we can get this fully in, bolted in. Then things should really start coming together. I do have quite a bit of parts for this, the intake, the throttle body, things like that, but I'm still missing all of the accessories and all of that stuff. So just piecing it together little by little. It's expensive. Anybody that says budget LS swap, nope, that's not real. I think that's going to do it for this episode. Got quite a bit done today. There's a lot of little stuff like this that folks don't see in builds, but they got to be done sooner than later. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you all very much. If you're not subscribed, guys should probably consider doing that. It's free. You just click the button. And then jam that bell thing too. That does something. And if you're interested in a back rig or a capitulator, you can shoot on over to vicegripgarage.com. There's also sweatshirts and I don't know. There's stuff over there. Thank you guys. We'll see you next time. Where's my cellular phone at?